Hello, YouTube babies. I am just on my way up the escalator. I'm gonna go see Gravity 3D. Whoa. Obviously, this movie has gotten a ton of amazing feedback. It's gotten some incredible reviews from some amazing and really respectable people. I'm really excited to see if it can live up to the hype at all. I don't know, frankly. I also just have had that John Mayer song stuck in my head all day and can't stop thinking about that one episode of Rugrats where they talk about gravity. So that's how I'm going into this. I will see you all on the other side. Okay. Wow. Gravity is neither Rugrats nor that one John Mayer song. Frankly, I think it's fantastic. I'll just cut right to the chase. However, first I want to do a little disclaimer. When I review a movie, just so you know, I know that we're all just getting to know each other, it's fine. When I review a movie, I assume that we are starting a discussion about a movie that we have both seen. I am not going to apologize for spoilers because it's not a spoiler if you've already seen it. So, I'm about to review Gravity. If you haven't seen Gravity, stop what you're doing, go out, buy a ticket, watch it in IMAX or 3D if you possibly can, and then come back and press play because we're here to talk about Gravity like we've already seen it. Cool? Cool. Okay. Whoa, Gravity. It has so much going for it that the average sort of just like survival, resourceful test of human spirit movie doesn't have. But let's start with the easy stuff. So, the tech. A lot of people have been going on and on about how great the tech is here and how complicated and revolutionary and amazing it is. Frankly, I didn't think it was complicated or revolutionary. I thought it was really very simple in that it was shot on location in space. It's really that simple, I think, and if not, then my brain exploded because I cannot imagine how many hours on how many computers in how many anti-gravity simulators in how many humongous underwater tanks. I can't imagine the kind of creative exertion that it took to make a movie that looks and sounds and feels like this. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Gravity is the most physiological, the most visceral, the most immersive experience I've ever had in a movie theater. I mean, I watched it obviously in 3D in IMAX, so that helps, but it's one thing to be able to make you dizzy with a bunch of like long swinging camera shots, and don't get me wrong, they definitely did that. You should make better dinner choices than I did before you see this movie, because it tests your dinner keeping down ability. But I'm talking about they were able to create in me a sense of airlessness. When Clooney's like, you're starting to feel lightheaded, I was like, I felt nauseous, I felt hot, I felt cold. I'm pretty sure it's magic. The sound design is totally freaking gorgeous. It's another, just a really pivotal part of that whole immersive, amazing space experience, which is cool because sound doesn't carry in space. The filmmakers really took pains to be scientifically accurate on everything that they possibly could. So there's sound when we would be hearing sound, and there are the sounds that we would be hearing, like the rattling of the suit or the oxygen tanks or whatever. And when there's not supposed to be sound, like we're not hearing the big like crash, boom, bang explosion because you can't hear that in space, which even just makes it creepier and eerier and makes you feel even smaller. It's just such a technically cohesive, beautiful piece. I'm super impressed. Totally believe the hype on the tech. It's awesome. Acting! Now I gotta say, full disclosure, traditionally I am not a big Sandra Bullock fan. It's not that she's made all bad movies, but frankly she's made enough bad movies that I don't trust her to not make more bad movies. Sometimes I can picture her reading a script that is rife with mediocrity and being like, oh, it's me as an actor on the page. Not so with Gravity. I mean, this is hands down. You can argue if you want, but don't argue because I'm right. It's hands down Sandra Bullock's best acting that she has ever done. This performance is a perfect example of an actor putting their physical, emotional well-being on the line, absolutely taking on the natural state of this character who is both brilliant and in peril, and I fully believed everything from Sandra Bullock. I can't imagine the work that she must have done for this movie. Man, it was gorgeous. Sandy, I'm sorry for all the mean things to say about you. I can't guarantee I won't keep saying them, but you did great. And if you win an Oscar for this, I won't be pissed. And Clooney, oh mama, Clooney is good. George Clooney as Matthew Kowalski is everything that you have ever wanted an astronaut to be, and he is everything that you have ever loved about any astronaut character in anything. His acting load is comparatively small to Sandra Bullock, but what he carries, oh man, does he ever carry it hard. He's written to be this just amazing, life-giving kind of character who is so full of vitality and so cool and so seasoned and so accepting of what the universe has to throw at him, that he's infectious. His portrayal and the way that this whole movie is put together makes you feel like you are part of the team. If you're rooting for Sandra Bullock's character, Dr. Ryan Stone, excuse me. Didn't mean to steal your PhD just because you're hot. And also because you're aware of the different tools and the various aspects of what is in the scene, you are trying to be, I don't know about you, but my experience is trying to be resourceful along with them, and they use every tool that they have. They didn't pull 127 hours and forget their fucking Gatorade in the truck. I've been a Girl Scout my whole life. You don't forget your fucking Gatorade in the truck. I have so much respect for the script of Gravity. Reason being, it was actually fairly sparse. And it really just told the story that it was telling. Don't get me wrong, one of my favorite types of movies in the whole world are these sort of like perilous, survival, resourceful kind of movies. 127 Hours, Castaway, the pilot of Lost, which set me up for a series of disappointment. One of my favorite books was Hatchet when I was a kid, for crying out loud. Like, I like this stuff where we are in a perilous situation and we have only what we have to get ourselves out of this perilous situation. I thought that Gravity is beautiful. However, what pieces like 127 Hours, Castaway, Lost do is that they rely on flashbacks and cutaways for exposition, which you really don't need more often than not. I loved that in Gravity we just stay in space the whole time. I mean, I felt like the script, in such a rare way, the script just trusted the story that it was telling and didn't feel like there needed to be any unnecessary backstory, didn't feel like there needed to be any unnecessary context or scientific explanation. I felt like the number of times when exposition could have been cut was like 5 to 10 seconds in the whole movie. That never happened. I love the relationship between Stone and Kowalski in that they're basically strangers, and what they have in common is that they are two highly trained, highly intelligent human beings in outer space. So they're completely dependent on each other for their survival. The character of Matthew Kowalski is Houston. He talks about at one point the fact that Mrs. Kowalski is down there in Texas looking up at him. Houston is the idea of control, of safety, of home, of everything that we come to rely on when we're in space, right? Which going into space is ultimately, that is the most control that a human can give up. First we lose communication with Houston the place, then we lose communication with Houston the person. When we lose track of Houston as mission control, we're totally adrift, right? And that's scary in and of itself. But when we lose Kowalski into space, we lose not only Houston as a place, we lose Houston as a feeling that it's going to be okay and that someone who is highly trained other than me is in control. And before, where it was a story of resourcefulness, now it is a story of survival. There's some imagery in this movie that is just so beautiful. When she first gets into the airlock within the Russian station, she's the shape of an infant in the womb. She goes in a full rotation, and for the first time in the movie, we feel safety and we feel warmth. It's this reassuring kind of like reset, return to the beginning, safe feeling. I have a major eye and a major soft spot for just beautiful, artistic, imagistic moments like that in movies, and I think that with the stress and panic of Act 1, they absolutely earned it. Another warm, golden respite within this movie is inside the Chinese escape pod when she essentially gives up and then has the vision, dream, hallucination, whatever you want to call it, of Kowalski coming back and giving her this little pep talk about you can stay here and die or you can go back there and live. That's the turning point. I think it is both kind of the script and very smart of the script to give us those two moments of just warm breath. We can have prep for the next emotional exertion of watching this movie. Another imagistic aspect that I just absolutely loved about Gravity and that I would be remiss not to mention is the geographic context that they gave. Every time that there was a shot of Earth, it was over a very, very deliberate part of Earth. So in the scene where Kowalski is towing Stone and she's running out of air quickly, he's asking her these very life-giving questions that are referential to her life on Earth and the way that her life started. And at that moment, the shot of Earth that we're floating over is the Fertile Crescent, is the Nile River, which of course historically is the most symbolic place on Earth as far as the start of life and the giving of life and the endurance of life is concerned. So I thought that was beautiful. When Kowalski unclips and we lose him into the abyss, he makes reference to the sun on the Ganges, which again, the Ganges is a very anciently recognized river, life-giving river. There's some beautiful symbolism because here he goes off into the sunrise. He's off on this next big journey. It was a beautiful, beautiful image, even though it was just suggested. We didn't even have to see it. When Dr. Stone is alone and it's starting to get really, really cold, starting to get really bleak, and she's starting to hallucinate, the geography that we see is Greenland, Iceland, and then that incredible image of the Northern Lights. Again, with the tech, I don't know how this movie was not shot in space. If you can explain that to me, please do so. All of those I thought were just beautiful, beautiful moments. Not only did they serve as ways of orienting us with where we physically were over the world, but they also informed the emotional tone of the scene and reminded us what it is that we're trying to get back to. I mean, for the whole movie, like, it takes place in one location. We know that the next place that we're trying to go is that space station there because we can see it. It's not a mystery, it's just a question of how we're gonna get there. We know that we want to get back to Earth. It's there. It's that. We want to get there. We can see it. It's just a question of how we get there. So Gravity is really unique in terms of it really only takes place in one line of sight. You can really only look left or look right. You can look behind you because you have a mirror on your wrist, which is awesome. All of those things were just really, really beautiful. I'll also say, while we're talking about themes and images and that kind of stuff, there was kind of a recurring theme of spirituality. Not exactly religion, but spirituality. When you're making a movie about space and things that happen in space, it's kind of hard not to equate the celestial sphere with the celestial sphere. So when she's inside the Russian escape pod, she says that no one ever taught her how to pray. When she's inside the next escape pod, the Chinese escape pod, which ultimately gets her home, that's when we see the little Buddha statue praying. We're on a spiritual journey with Stone, which obviously is secondary to her survival. She's growing as a person in many, many aspects of herself, right? And spirituality is one of those. I thought those were really, really nice undertones without being heavy-handed or preachy. If you weren't watching for themes or undertones like that, it would be easy to miss. But you feel it because it's there, which is cool. Now I want to talk about the ending really quick. I don't feel bad talking about this because I already gave you the spoiler alert talk. She finally careens through the atmosphere in the Chinese escape pod, lands in the lake, perfectly executes the soft landing. The sound design handles that scene beautifully. We're in the lake. We see the frog go by. We know it's fresh water. It's not that deep. She's getting out of the suit. We're free. And she gets to the beach and we have this incredible primordial moment. And she lives the entire course of evolution of life on Earth in like a minute and a half of screen time. She's in the water. She goes swimming to the side. She crawls to the water, tries to push herself up a couple times, gets up, grows legs, and walks away. What we're left with that last amazing shot is just this sort of like towering image of humanity as it has come to be. On the one hand, as a person, she previously lost everything that you can lose in life, pretty much. On the other hand, she's also reached like the pinnacle of human achievement. It is the tiniest sliver of humanity that is smart enough, that has the prowess to go to space. I mean, she went to space. That's basically, I mean, that's the top. That's the top. She already did it. She's already conquered space. She decided she hates space. Now here she is to come home and live her life in the most beautiful, most wild, most primal state ever. And whatever location Scout decided on Lake Powell, Arizona was spot on because that red sand was just gorgeous. Geology rocks. I mean, Gravity is just a beautiful, beautiful movie. I don't want to do some kind of like gimmicky rating system or anything, but it is gorgeous. On a scale of 1 to gravity, it is gravity. And you have already seen it, but you should tell your friends to see it too, so that we can all talk about it. Cool? Alright guys, well I think I've pretty much talked your ears off about gravity. I've pretty close to talked my face off about gravity, but here's the thing. I am hungry to talk about movies with you. I am thirsty and hungry and in human need of talking about these movies with you. So, if you watched Gravity and saw something completely different than I did, or if you agree and want to elaborate on the things that I saw, I would really love to hear about it. You can hit me up in the comments. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I will figure out how to edit those in a minute. Like, subscribe, share, do whatever you got. See you out there.